Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Intentional Living Podcast with your co-hosts Marty Keller here in Sacramento, California, and John Donovan in Oceanside, California. The Intentional Living Podcast is our opportunity to take a look at examining and then breaking patterns of behavior that I say I don't want and nonetheless continue to show up. Like, have you ever hurt someone you loved and then later regretted it and then hurt them again, usually in the exact same way? Have you ever realized in the middle of an argument that you were on the wrong side of that argument and you continued to argue it anyway?
Mhm.
Or have you ever known that you were about to do or say something that you would regret, maybe even hearing a little voice in your head saying, don't go there, and yet you found yourself unable or unwilling to stop?
Mhm.
These are just a few examples of the different behaviors that we often experience where we feel compelled to do something that we in our minds we say we shouldn't, or the opposite, we feel compelled to not do something that our mind says we ought to be doing. Either way, on this podcast, we examine and uncover the subconscious obstacles to living the life that we want that lead to these behaviors that we say we don't want, and we learn to befriend them and we learn to make them allies in this creating of the lives that we want to live. Intentional living is exactly about that. It's like, how do I live the life I consciously intend to live instead of that life that comes from compulsions that I don't understand, that make me angry with myself and maybe even make me hate myself. And so, uh, John, we have been, for the past couple of months, we've been taking a look at a number of principles that we use in helping clarify and explain both these obstacles that live in our subconscious minds and the solutions. What are things that we can do to make a difference in our lives, to create the lives that we say we want?
Mhm.
And last week we were examining a principle. Let me put the principle up here so everybody can see it. And here we go. So we've been taking a look at a series of principles that we started back in November. I'm always getting what I want. And we go through these different statements that can be provocative. They are all great. As you've said, these are all great topics for conversation among people that are involved in what we call, generally speaking, recovery. And last week we were working on this one: personalize everything and don't take anything personally. And at the end of that podcast, you started to talk about some things that I think we should uh, look at in a greater depth. Uh,
Okay.
you said something to the effect of, I no longer intend to do good. And you said, I intend instead to live authentically.
Correct.
And so I thought, and then you said a few other things that were, partially or minorly provocative.
Uh,
So I thought maybe we should explore some of those topics in greater depth. So, would you be willing to revisit or share with us that observation that you had about doing good, and maybe
yeah.
that'd be a way to kick us off here?
Yeah. One of my awarenesses in my recovery process was that I was admonished in my childhood to be good. And that was somebody else's projection of what that good was. And it changed. I would hear um, what um, they would say, and I would attempt to do that, and then I would find that they were mad because I either didn't do it their way or I'm not sure. Um, and the admonition, I never tell my grandson, be good or you're good. I say that was agile. That was that showed a lot of effort. I see you're putting a lot of effort into what you're doing. Um, That worked well for you. I saw that interaction with whatever you did with your friend, that worked well for you. Um, um, so, and the school he goes to, Waldorf School, they don't use, they don't tell the child they're doing good. They do, and that's where I learned it, is from Waldorf School. They talk about the behavior. They address the behavior as um, doing well, or that was a mistake. Humans make mistakes. What did you learn from it? Instead of, you shouldn't have hit that other kid. What's the matter with you? You're a bully. No, um, that was that didn't work really well. I'm not sure what they would say. I've never seen him hit somebody. Um, what are you going to do next time? Nor do I say that was stupid or what's wrong with you? How come you can't figure that out? When he was really small, he got into Hot Wheels. He loved Hot Wheels. So, of course, Grandpa bought him, bucket loads of Hot Wheels. And he'd be playing the Hot Wheels. And I never instructed him on frontwards, backwards, roll, speed. And my job was to fish him out from underneath the couch. That was my job. And then he became proficient at Hot Wheels, building things up and knocking them down, building tracks and things to maneuver through, all by himself. Just me observing him play. And again, that's a Waldorf tradition. Kids are allowed to play up until they're 12 years old. It's different from ages 1 to 7, and it is from 7 to 12. There's a different guidelines in it, and they're allowed to play because they see play as how they learn themselves. They learn their physical body, their emotional body, and they talk about spiritual body and the beliefs of the Christian belief, or they get into archangels and that kind of thing. But they have a spiritual context to community. So one of the things, if one of my clients comes in early to the group, I'll ask them, "Hey, how's it going?" And they'll say, "Good." And I'll look at them and I'll go, "Is there anything I can do to mess that up for you?" And, and they have no idea what I'm saying. It's like, because that's the answer you're supposed to give. Oh, I'm doing good. And it's mindless, or there's no contemplation to it. And they asked me, "John, how you doing?" I said, "I'm doing well." And if you want some details, you got about an hour and a half. I can explain the details to you. And well, a young boy asked me today, because I said that to him, "Well, I'm doing good, John." I said, "Anything I can do to mess that up?" And he goes, "No." And I said, "Well, I'm going to give it my best shot." And he says, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm doing well." And then I asked him, I said, "You ever wonder why I say that to you?" Because I said it more than once to him.
All right.
Why I said it. He goes, "Yeah." And I said, when I say I'm doing well, I'm dealing with what's coming at me on the outside. When I used to say good, everything was according to my judgment okay, and I was doing okay because everything I was in a good space. Nobody was messing with me. And if I said, "Oh, I'm not doing so well," I was struggling with some kind of control issue. So that good, bad was actually a judgment. In fact, good is as much of a judgment as bad. And that puts me at odds with myself in this subconscious thing. We talk about the unresolved complex post-traumatic stress. We don't even know what the stress is or the wounding was. It's been held in the subconscious, and yet it manifests in our behavior and our attitudes and beliefs. And we try to be good. Well, no, really, what's going on? So I said, number one, you might be grateful to be here, but dude, you're in a recovery center. You're how many old years you are old, and your life's out there. And what's out there is, family dysfunction. Maybe your parents are mad at you, no job, but your finances are in the toilet, and you're telling me you're good? Okay, no, you are where you're at, which is in a treatment center, struggling with whatever he's struggling with, addiction or obsessive compulsive. I said, when you know that, when you're there, I'm doing well because I know I'm struggling with my addiction and my obsessive compulsive thoughts. I'm doing well. Oh, okay, that's proactive. That's you being where you're at when you're there. Good is what you think I want to hear. Maybe I don't like assign this my perception to what you have come into a habit of saying when somebody asks you, because that's just what you say. We got an acronym in the 12 steps, and somebody says, I'm doing fine. And it's effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. I'm doing fine. Effed up, insecure, neurotic. Okay. So, no, say, I'm scared, I'm confused. Because if you say where you're at, that accepting where you're at gives you sight or direction. Blanking into, oh, I'm good, like I'm doing what everybody's telling me to do, what I'm supposed to do, and that's still not matching up with who you are, your authentic self. So I think the statement I made, I actually created the intent not to do good or bad, to simply be authentic. Now, in somebody's eyes, they might judge it as good. In somebody else's eyes, they might judge it as arrogant or bad. And authenticity will be mirrored with authenticity. Good, usually we live in a polarized, there's a law of conservation. I don't know, there's physical laws. In a polarized environment, one has to balance out with the other. It's the law. It's the law. And we summarily dismiss that law and try to be good. I was working with one of my teachers. He was a Taoist master. You know, the Tao symbol, it's got the two fish, light and dark, equal parts, 50-50. And he said one of his students asked him, can I be 51% light? And he said, no, you cannot. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. You mean I'm both? He goes, yeah. I said, damn, what do I do with that? And he looked at me, he pointed his finger in my nose. I like being a teacher. He goes, walk the razor's edge. And okay. All right. So one of the consequences of choosing to walk the razor's edge is this perception or belief, don't do good. Be authentic. Be authentic. And I come from this place of inclusion. Okay. That's another key point I didn't talk about. Being authentic with the purpose of being inclusive. Now, to somebody that might be good, somebody it may be bad. I don't know. Me acting authentically adds something to this balance thing that wasn't there before. So maybe the pendulum doesn't have to swing so far, or we come to a different perception community-wise or race consciousness-wise about how to move past this. I don't know. I think how I hear ascension, fourth, fifth dimension, is without judgment. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. I do know my choices affect my capacity to move into those places, even though I don't pretend to understand this law of conservation. I do know it works. So my choice is not to do good. And some people, you may hear that, like, oh my God, what are you going to do? Bad? No, 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 I don't have to do one or the other. I can do in my perception something different, which to me is acting authentically with the purpose of expansion and inclusion. Take that to a debate between a Democrat and a Republican. It's like, see what happens.
Well,
And I
there's
actually do. I actually do. Some people come in, stressed out about everything that's going on, and okay, and then I lead them through where what's good, what's bad, your perception, what do you want to add, that kind of thing.
well, there's so much to unpack, and we have about 15 minutes to do it all. So,
Mhm.
so just a couple of quick observations that I'd like to offer and to get your reaction. So, let's go back to the childhood thing where all this stuff starts. So,
Yeah.
the because the concept of good and bad is embedded in all human cultures, going all the way back to the dawn of history.
Yep.
And so the first thing to observe is that this is a huge mountain to climb to determine to be good free, bad free. Those are my words now.
Okay.
And while and it's actually quite important to the work that we do, because one of the principles that we haven't got to yet is that nothing's wrong. And nothing's wrong means there is no good, there is no bad. There just
Correct.
is. There just
Is.
is. So, and the challenge that we have in childhood is the fact that we are designed to attach. You talked about attachment, I think it was last week. We are
Yeah.
designed to love, seek love, attach to
Yeah.
the giver of love, because we are also designed to be secure, to feel secure.
Mhm.
And if the caregiver, the love giver, the parent, the mother, for the most part, the first one, has any reservation about being unconditional with us, the first thing we're going to pick up is the condition. There's a
Yep.
condition attached to this
Yep.
experience of love, acceptance, acknowledgement, companionship, all
Mhm.
those words that we can use that define attachment. And so here's our challenge. The initial challenge that we all have is that from the earliest moments of our lives, unless we were graced with parents who really understood all this stuff, and even if they understand it, they can't get inside the experience of the infant. They can't
Correct.
get inside the experience of the child, so that as good as we might be, as enlightened as we might be about these things, we still can only do the best we can.
Yeah.
So inside of all of that, for most of us, certainly for me in my childhood, my infancy and my childhood, um, I learned that good and bad was a reality, and that they were
Yeah.
attached to getting love needs met.
Correct.
And that which got my love needs met was good, and that
Hmm.
which did not was bad.
Yeah. Yep.
So this, I think, is where I'd like to just, particularly for the newcomer who might think we're nuts, and I wouldn't blame you for thinking that. Um,
Yeah.
this is where we're coming from, is to understand first and foremost how we're made as human beings, how our psyches are designed, how the way we are made causes us to behave or interact or learn the way we do, particularly in those first 5 years where our conscious mind is just not awake yet.
Correct.
We have no power. Think back to when you were 2 or 3, you can't remember, or maybe you have these little glimpses of something, but I didn't have any power whatsoever to assess, analyze, and make decisions about what was going on.
Correct.
All I could do is react. And some of those reactions were painful, and some of those
Hmm.
reactions were joyful. And so from the earliest moments, we have this dichotomy: painful bad, joyful good. And some of us
Yep.
I think this includes you, John. Some of us were raised in religious contexts. I was raised as a Catholic, where there,
Yeah,
from the earliest, I went to Catholic school my whole childhood, and so
yeah,
from the earliest encounter with that, I was presented with a moral code of
yep.
good and bad. We
Hmm.
not only had the Ten Commandments, but we had other moral injunctions that we were required to follow, or we were bad.
Right.
We were sinners. Sin
Yep.
equals bad,
Hmm.
moral behavior equals good. And I just want to point out to those watching how that's so related to acceptance and rejection.
Yep.
So if you behave and you don't sin, you are accepted among the sainted. And if
Yep.
you misbehave and you do sin, you are fated to go to hell. Now, the Catholic Church created confession, so there was always a get out of jail card. And there was some wisdom to that because it acknowledged that human beings are human and that this tendency to um, make mistakes is just built into our nature. There's no such thing as a mistake free human being. At least I've never met that person. Maybe you have. But
No.
so I just want to start there by acknowledging that um, the decision about doing good can only come from a level of wisdom and growth that understands all of these psychodynamics in our lives, that comes from doing this work, because it it's very challenging for those of us, which is everyone, who's raised in a world of conditionality, to make the assertion nothing's wrong, which is another way of saying there are no conditions. The world is unconditional. It just is what it is. So it requires a paradigm shift that has a huge impact on my behaviors.
Hmm.
So that's what I heard. That's what I wanted to react to what I heard you say. And I'll stop there and see what you think.
One of the healing perceptions I've gotten from my healing is the way my mother and dad interacted, which was um, painful for us. I want to say for me and my brothers. I have three brothers. Um, I'm now grateful to them because if they hadn't done that, I wouldn't have gone on this search. So what I saw was bad, like my dad hitting my mother. If my dad hadn't hit my mother, I don't believe I'd be here. So I, in some way, went through that experience, and the blessing is now. If I called that a bad thing, which I did most of my life, I hated my dad, and that's one of the things coming up on the principles. And I learned that I became what I hated. So my projection and perception of my dad being brutal, arrogant, unrealistic, violent, I became that. But I hated that every day. I did not like that man. In fact, I tell people, I say it out loud, I will never be like that guy. I'm going to be different. And then I popped out. I was in recovery probably 8 years at 45 with the realization, oh my God, I'm just like him.
If
Actually,
it's any
it's one of those
consol
things.
if it's any consolation, I had the exact experience.
Okay, so in my trying to be good, not like my dad
Right,
bad, me
right,
good.
right.
It was none of that was me. If I became like my dad, that's not me. If I wasn't like my dad, that's still not me. I wasn't in search of me. I was in search of not or better. Good. Okay. And it ended me up move, the need to go into recovery. So this is one of my experiences that have fed my perception. I do not want to do good. I wish to live authentically from my authentic expression, and we'll see what happens. Then I'll deal with consequences or results of that,
Okay, so
which
can
I
I?
have found right now. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay, well, because we're getting running out of time, I want to back up what I heard you just say with my own understanding of it,
Okay.
which is I choose to live authentically in order to be in a voluntary association relationship with you or anybody else.
Correct.
That I get the greatest joy and pleasure in relationship when there is no coercion, when there is
Correct.
only choice, free
Yep.
choice. And
Yep.
so for me, when you said that last week, when you first said that, I was thinking uh, I first had to learn to liberate myself from the compulsions. That's again what we do in this podcast. We talk about looking at those behavior patterns that feel compulsive and feel like being putting us in a prison. So
Hmm.
I didn't have to. I chose to liberate myself by learning about myself, learning these things, learning I was just like my father,
Hmm.
and be willing to say, okay, I'm willing to be just like my father.
Hmm.
So I liberated myself from the prison of there's something wrong with being like my father.
Yeah.
And once I was free from that, I was now in a place to make a choice that I wasn't in before.
Correct.
And then I could choose anything, including staying like being like my father,
Yep.
which is actually what I did choose. And
Hmm.
and then that because life is lived from the inside out, my projection onto you or to anybody else is I support you being to choose to be whatever way you want, and it's none of my business what you choose.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
so that's what I heard out of this part of this conversation is that living authentically is because I choose to live in freedom
Yes.
and I choose to be in relationship with people who also prefer to live in freedom and who so that if I which I do from time to time like you do every once in a while I still have an opinion I try to impose on somebody else. I actually feel it. I feel it in my body.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And then I feel, okay, I did that to you, and I'm withdrawing that projection. That was on me. That's got nothing
Yeah.
to do with you.
Correct. Which is the constant or the principle we're working on. Personalize everything. Don't take anything personal.
Right.
Fantastic.
Well said. So
So
as there's a lot more that we could say about this, but we're coming to the end of our time together here on
yeah.
this one. Um, I just like to make a pitch to the viewer that we, John and I, facilitate a meeting every week, and we have two comrades, colleagues who also facilitate meetings. So there's 4 intentional living meetings every week, and they're all on Zoom. And in those meetings, we actually apply these principles. We work on them. We bring our problems, our challenges, our frustrations, and we work in them in the group. The group is supportive, just as Alcoholics Anonymous group is supportive, or Narcotics Anonymous, or Adult Children of Alcoholics. The group setting has a liberating quality because there is that voluntary reality. Everyone is there because he or she chooses to be there.
Hmm.
And so, in that freedom, is love, at least in my experience, in that freedom, love can blossom. I can relax. I don't have to feel defensive. I can start to speak truths about myself that I never would say out loud to strangers. Um, and the group process is liberating. So we have 4 of these meetings every week. They're all on Zoom, as I said. And information on the times and the Zoom addresses of those meetings is at the end of this podcast. So I just invite you to consider coming to a meeting, learning about the actual process itself that allows us to demystify our behaviors and to consciously choose the life that we've been desiring in the deepest part of our hearts to live our whole lives.
Yeah.
And so before we wrap up, John, any last thoughts that you'd like to share?
I'm looking forward to finishing this, and hopefully we'll get to the end because we keep adding principles to it. But it's they're insightful. I enjoy um, um, talking about these and sorting things out and offering information that is different than people need to be fixed. If everybody just get along, everything be okay. No, no, there's more to it. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
And the next few principles, I think, help illustrate these things even more. So stay
okay.
tuned, folks. And thanks, John, for your time.
You're welcome.
And we'll see you next week.
You got it. Thank you, Marty. Love you.
Love you too. Bye.